Thank you, Kevin.
Second.
Second by Judy. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you. First item on the agenda is the approval of the consent agenda.
I move approval, and I'd like to comment on it.
Okay.
On this consent agenda, we are accepting $13,000 from donations from our community. We are ever so more grateful for these donations, and we will use them according to the wishes of the donor and according to the mission of the school district, and we thank you very much.
And I'll second.
Thank you. A motion and a second on the consent agenda. Any more discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right, presentations and recognitions. Tonight, we do not have any staff, student, or community recognition, so the first item is the Northeast Metro 916 Intermediate School District. Connie Hayes.
Oh, and clearly a recognition.
Yes.
Well, thanks so much for having me here tonight. I really enjoy coming out here each year and giving you a little update about 916. And just before I came here, I was looking at a draft of a 50-year video that we're celebrating our 50-year anniversary for the school district, and it reminded me that Mahtomedi was one of the founding districts. So you have been with us from the very beginning, 50 years as of this spring. So thank you for that very long-term partnership with the district. What I'd like to do tonight is give you a little insight into our latest annual report that we create for our member districts each year. You can see there are 2 years up on the screen. That's when we adapted to a more web-based report that we give to our members. It's a little more engaging, but we also have all the prior years on the website if you ever are a data geek and you want to really dig into your participation over many years that we've done this report. But our communications director has done a great job in adapting our report in this format. So I am going to get us into the 2018 report. So like you do an annual report on the prior year. So this is on 18. We'll have a new annual report for our members coming up next fall, and I can tell you a little bit about some changes as we go through here. I won't spend a lot of time on the district overview, but you can see our mission there. It's been that for a number of years. Quick profile of the district. And then it's always nice to see a map of our member districts. We have grown pretty significantly the last few years. Judy will remember we added 4 members. And so now we're 14 member districts strong, as you would say, and a 14-member board, which we love all of our board members. Our member districts send to us. We loved having Judy, and we love having Kevin as our new board member most recently. So as of fiscal year 18, we put this number out to kind of help you know the number of students our staff touch on an annual basis. So close to about 6,000 students in our member districts. We have quite a few different programs, and so you can see the student numbers associated with all of those programs, and that one to the far right in home districts, that's generally the contracted staff that our member districts purchase from us, like a .5 deaf and hard of hearing teacher or something like that. 19 total programs across a wide geographic region, and we'll talk a little bit about some of those as we get going. In fiscal year 18, we had just under 700 total staff. The interesting thing about that number is that we actually have quite a few more individuals who work in our district, but we haven't been able to fill full-time staff. As you know, we hire a lot of special education teachers, and we're always short of them. We're short of educational assistants. So we work with teachers on call to get substitutes, so they're not actually counted in this number. But once we review our fiscal year 19 data, we really have about 800 positions that we are working with in our district, and that's about 35 to 40% more than we had when I started in the district 14 years ago. So we have grown quite a bit. What did we have here? Oh, and I guess we always put in here 87% of the staff that we have actually work directly with students. Well, this board has heard the story of our facilities over the years, and we're just proud to say that with the opening of Core Education Center this fall, we've now completed the 3-step plan that our member district supported and the 916 board moved ahead. And if you haven't had a chance to visit our facilities when we do program visits, I would encourage you to do so. I always say to district leaders that you don't really get it until you see it and you hear from the leaders and see some of the students, and then it really starts to resonate with what opportunities your partnership with 916 really brings to your students and families. And here's just a picture of Core that we opened in the fall, had a grand opening, and very proud of that. One of the key features that our member districts are really starting to enjoy is our conference center. It replaced a kind of old and dingy part of Capitol View, the old building that we had purchased from Roseville many, many years ago. We replicated that obviously for some of our own training purposes, and now our member districts are saying we'd really like to use that space too, which we're happy to share. Just some general numbers about our budget. You can see our expenditures are way over our revenues, but of course that's because we've been doing a lot of construction projects, so that'll look very different in the next few years. So next up, let's look at ALCs, one of our major areas of programming. And most of you are probably familiar with what ALCs are, high school students that need a different environment, not successful in the typical environment. We have 3 centers, and we see just under 3,000 students each year. And there, you can see some demographics of the students that reach us in those programs. And here are the 3 centers that we have. I'll first talk about Metro Heights Academy, which is located in the city of Fridley. You can see the, well, here I'll give you the little key. The orange part is enrollment that comes from our member districts. Metro Heights is a collaboration, or it was developed as a collaboration between Spring Lake Park and Columbia Heights. Of course, when you have an ALC, you have to be open to anybody who wants to come. So a large number of the students there are from those 2 districts, but then there's also a number that come from other districts. Eastview Academy is kind of balanced in the other direction. That's in the Core Education Center. Most of those students are not member district students and come from a wide range of other districts. And then I wanted to hold this one out separate because many of you might know that we actually started the Mahtomedi Academy as a result of your district asking us to assist you in taking over your ALC programming that you were having some difficulties with having the budget balance, and so we kind of like to say we have these regional ALCs that can perhaps be a little bit more cost effective than districts doing it on their own. I'm going to give you a little data as we dig in here. So on many of these pages you can click on your own district and find out how many students attend those centers. And so you can see in fiscal year 18, Mahtomedi had 12 students who were part of the Mahtomedi Academy. We had a couple of students actually that were over at Eastview. And keep in mind, this is not, and Bill will be interested in this, this is not ADM. This is actually students that were there, and they might have been there just for a brief time for credit recovery, but it's sort of a head count number just to let you know students, your students that have reached out to us. All right, and then there's always a nice little story that you can read on your own. Next, we're going to jump to care and treatment, which is another growing area for 916. Here's a little bit about the enrollment as of 18. What happens with care and treatment is we obviously, as educators, are not providing the clinical support for students, but we're providing the educational support when students are in these care and treatment programs. So as of 18, we had 2 programs that we were running, one in Blaine and one in Woodbury. And this year and next year, we're actually expanding. We have many providers that are approaching us as they're expanding their offerings in area of mental health to have us as the educational provider. So again, you can click on Monamita and see if you've had any students participating. And yes, you had 7 students in fiscal year 18 as part of the ERAS mental health program in Woodbury. So here's a little bit about care and treatment then. Let's move on to the Career and Technical Center. I know this board has always had interest in career and technical opportunities for your students. Many options that you provide locally and can expand those options by enrolling students in our Career and Tech Center. So overall, we see about 1,000 students each year, and you can see the breakdown of demographics as well. And as you scroll through here, the numbers start to pop up in the program as to the number of students in that year that participated in each of those particular career pathways. And another fun thing is to see all of the college credits that students that attend our Career and Tech Center have accomplished. And so, parents are expecting those options more and more these days, and this is a great way for students to walk across the stage at graduation and have in their pocket some college credit that they can apply moving forward. There are a couple of other options that we assist with. Some of our member districts have a program that they merely want to have access to more students, so sometimes we can help a local district get some additional students from surrounding districts that might want to join a program that you're not able to provide locally, and that district needs a few more students for enrollment. And then also Century College Concurrent Enrollment is another partnership that we advocate for. So moving down to the little plus sign for participation for Monamita, you can see here that in fiscal year 18 you had 62 students participate, and then if you look closely, you probably want to do this online if you're real curious, you can see the number of your students that participated in each one of those career pathways. Looks like the most popular one was cosmetology, and it looks like diesel trucks was the oh no, here we go. Emergency medical tech was the other one. Oh, that's a great program. Those kids come out of there just so adult-like, and I'd let any one of them work on me if I had a car accident, let me tell you. They're great. Okay, there's another little spotlight in a program. So, special education. We are probably most known for our Level 4 center-based special education programs that we offer. Each year we touch about 800 students, and there's the breakdown of the demographics. What disabilities do students come with? By far, most of the students are autism spectrum disorder and EBD. A few less in other health impaired, as well as developmental cognitive disability. And so those are kind of cross all of our different programs, but they all have to have an IEP and what is the major disability, and that's what's represented in those numbers. And then again, program enrollment. I won't probably spend a lot of time on each of these, but again, if you scroll through this on your own, you can see what the numbers are. But let's get down to Monamita again here. And in 18, You had one student at Bel Air, and then, of course, here we still had our old building, Capitol View, so all those programs are kind of crunched together. But you had 6, 3, 6, and so on. All right, and another spotlight on special ed. Next up, I mentioned this earlier about providing contracted services for those professionals that come out to your district. If you don't need a full-time equivalent in a specialty area, we can, I'm going to skip that just because of time, and come down to special ed. These are the FTEs that we shared with member districts, and if you want to know a little more about your own district, if you go on the web, you can click on this button, which I'm not going to do because I always have a hard time getting back to this presentation, but it's there if you want the details. And then we run a bunch of professional networks that you participate in a lot. It's an opportunity for us to lead some discussion and some professional development for your administrators that are supporting your district, and they can kind of learn from each other. Gifted and Talented, we run an Education Equity Ed Camp every year, which is really great. And then I want to talk a little bit about this because I gave you a handout that will give you some data on this. One of the things that we have learned the last couple of years, and I've shared this often with my colleague superintendents, is that we have been filling up much faster than we thought we would with our new building programs. And we're also capped a little bit because we're not able to hire all of our special ed teachers, but my director of special ed, Dan Naditz, and I started to have a conversation about 4 years ago that this growth it's great in one way that kids get access to some really good services, but it also is very expensive for districts to send students to 916. And in addition to that, we started to question whether or not by having so many kids come our way that we were supporting the concept of least restrictive environment. And you all know, have heard that term, and that means that every student has a right to be served in the least restrictive environment to meet their needs. And so we started thinking about what that means for us, being kind of the receiving district, and we recognized that over the many years of providing these services, our staff have really learned some unique skills in trying to be supportive to these students who have these complex needs. I always tell policymakers, for example, that there is no curriculum to take off the shelf. There is no expert to come and say, this is how you do it and you will be successful. We have been developing best practices on the fly, and our success at that has really been growing year after year. So Dan and I had this idea that we want to do our best to try to help our member districts gain some of those skills if they have a readiness for that learning, so that you can improve some of the programming you have at the local level with the hopes that over time member districts won't have to send so many kids to our programs. And sometimes when I say that, people say, well, why are you talking about not, keeping improving 916? Well, we're really trying to do the best thing for kids in the long run. And we just want to be able to share our expertise. So this has been a developing new service model over the last couple of years, and it's starting to grow. And it started with us putting together some ideas of helping our member districts by providing a consultation team. So what happens there is a team that's working with a youngster who's struggling both academically and with behavior. The team calls Dan's office and says, I have this student, here's the challenges. Can you send out a team of your staff to help us think through some strategies that we might try with our youngster? And so we've been doing that for a few years now, and the success rate is really growing. Last year, we did about 100 consultations, and out of that, only 4 of those students were referred to 916. So we're starting to think we're on to something there. And what we've added to, as a result of that, is providing a summer professional development opportunity for our member districts to bring a team of their staff in to start to learn some of these strategies. And then the great thing about that is it's not a one-and-done training. We commit to that team to bring support out during the school year to check in with them. How is your implementation going on some of the ideas? Here's some new things to try. Here's a way to tweak it a little bit so that you can really start to have some of that success. And what I'm telling my colleague superintendents is that we really need to work hard in partnership with our members for a good 5 years with this strategy to see if we can level off the enrollment to 916. And if we can't do that, if the pressure for increased enrollment continues to climb, we're going to have to come back to our member districts about another new building or adding on to our buildings. And we're hoping to avoid that for our member districts in terms of cost. So it's a theory of ours that it's going to help, but we'll see, where it goes in the next few years. But what you have in front of you that looks like this is a report that we're giving to the 916 board each month now as an update. We're hoping it will create some conversation at the local level about your own enrollment at 916. And one of the things there's a lot of data on here, and I won't spend a lot of time talking about all of it, but one of the things I want you to take note of is on the graph, you're going to see an orange line running through there. So what that's telling you is at the end of March, we had 61 students that had grown in their skills to the point where we feel they're ready to transition back to their local district, which is really exciting to us. We've never seen numbers like that in the past, and we're proud of it. But there's always challenges in that transition process for a variety of reasons. Based at the local level, maybe the parent's not ready to transition back, maybe the local district hasn't been able to hire staff or they don't have room. So there's all sorts of complications to that, but it's still a goal to try to reach that. And some of those students, that's March, are probably waiting to transition back to the local district at the end of the school year. So that's kind of just a high-level view of how what we're doing here resonates with what's happening with our enrollment. Down in the corner in the green, you can see as of March, we've had a total of 11 students that have successfully transitioned back during the year. So we hope that number 61 eventually goes down and that number 11 eventually goes up. And if that continues to happen over the next few years, that tells us that we think this is a good model to keep trying with our member districts. So with that, I'll quit talking. I know you have a long agenda ahead of you. If you don't cut me off, I'll keep talking and take up far too much time, but I'll certainly answer any questions the board might have.
Questions or comments from board members?
Thanks. Could you explain to me the transition to their home district a little more? So it means it comes into a less restrictive atmosphere, but the concern is that you need to have the staff for that. Is that what it is?
The local district does need to have the staff, and generally, when the student came to us, you had the staff, but the staff has to be ready, knowing how the student had success, some of the strategies that we've used to help the student have success, so that when the student comes back, we don't have regression. So the team at the local district and the team at 916 have to really connect and partner together during that transition. We don't drop the student off at the door and say, good luck. We know we'd have regression then. So we want to continue to partner with the local district so we can have a successful transition over a period of months.
Do you come across situations where there is a student ready to transition, but the district isn't ready to take them in?
Yes, but not for a negative reason, I guess I
Well, I
would
mean,
say.
for staff reasons or something?
Well, staff reasons, or they don't have the space. It could be the student is still in elementary and just about to move into middle school, and it doesn't make sense to transition the student to elementary when they're about to transition to middle. So what I'm saying is there's lots of reasons why there might be a delay in the student coming back, but I would say never is there a stop sign. It's usually we have to figure out the way to ensure that we have a successful transition.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So if 916 is so close to capacity, why did they add 4 more districts?
Well, Judy might remember some of the conversations we had at the board table on that. So those 4 districts came in, at the early stage when our numbers were going up. So it was really unclear if we were going to reach capacity. When we planned our 4 buildings, we went through quite a protracted conversation with member district leaders just to ensure that, this collaborative was going to be around for the next few years if we were going to put this debt on. And none of the member districts anticipated the acceleration of enrollment that indeed panned out. So, we all try to predict enrollment in our districts, and sometimes we get it right and sometimes we get it wrong, either direction. In this particular case, our anticipation was that with our 3 new buildings, we would have capacity to meet our members' needs for about 10 to 12 years. And our member district's needs started growing and then accelerated as soon as the buildings opened up. And so we were kind of caught between decisions on adding members and watching the enrollment, and then it's really hard to predict this kind of enrollment because we're not doing it based on households like you folks do. It's based on what needs emerge, and can't always predict what those needs are. Good question, though.
As far as transitioning, I mean, we're going to, what about do you have anything to do with the kids that are 18 to 21?
Yes.
When they transition, they don't transition back to a district, they just transition out, right? Or, I mean.
Well, so just a little bit of background, students can graduate even though they have an IEP at age 18, but if the team determines that additional time to meet some transition goals, they can continue to have education between 18 and 21. Some districts run their own transition program. Some of them enroll them in our programs. And so the ones that we work with, we get them out into the community, they get some internships, they learn some of the soft skills they need for jobs, and that kind of thing.
So the ones that we have, like that new place that's up by Jethro's, or, that's a Montemita one, right? Yeah. Okay, so they're there and they're just going to transition out of there once they get more life skills training and things like that? Cool, thanks.
Anything else? Kevin? Oh, go ahead.
Have any of you had a chance to do any of the tours?
Yep.
Four of them.
Yeah, they're great. I mean, I was at Pancalo this fall, maybe?
Yep.
Boy, time flies. And absolutely an amazing tour. If you haven't gone to Pancalo, that's worth seeing, so. Yeah.
Thank you very much for your support over the years. We really enjoy our partnership.
I was just going to make a comment that as a new superintendent, I have really appreciated all your support, and of all the superintendents, I can see that you're kind of our hub, so, and it's not reflected in the annual report, but I know that you do a lot of work to bring us all together and get us all on the same page. So in addition to the work that you've been doing for our students, you're also doing a lot for all of us, so thank you for that.
One of my favorite parts of the job.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
All right, next on the agenda, report from student representative. Tonight, we do not have Luke, we have Claire Fritsch.
Hi. So Wildwood, on April 4th, they had a book fair. Also on the 4th, there was conferences for first grade and second grade. On the 5th, there was a book fair. On the 9th, there was a field trip. 12th, there was the PTO fun fair at Wildwood. And then on the 17th, an author named Matt De La Pena visited. And then OH, on the 2nd, there was a student recital day. Students of all grades had the opportunity to perform different musical pieces for their classmates and teachers. On the 4th, there was evening conferences. The 5th, there was a Zephyr Spirit Day where they dressed like famous people. On the 10th, 4th grade had an in-house field trip with the Science Museum. And then on the 12th, they also participated in the fun fair. The middle school just went on the 8th grade Washington, D.C. field trip. And in the high school, we had a diaper drive for Harriet Tubman Women's Shelter. And then April 2nd was Junior ACT Day. April 4th was evening conferences. And then the 11th was a snow day. And April 12th, or 8th to 12th, we had Mental Health Week. And each day, a video relating to mental health was showed in our first hour classes. And at the end of the week, we all attended a mental health speaker at St. Andrews. There was 3 different Matamidi students, and then 1 Matamidi grad who speaks professionally about mental health. And then they all shared their own personal stories. It was very impactful, and hopefully we will be able to continue it. And then the performances of Matamidi High School production of the 25th Annual Putnam County Spelling Bee are on April 26th and 27th at 7, and then April 28th at 2. And then April 26th, there is the Bill Gangle Memorial Run for 24 hours. And the purpose of this event is to support Matamidi Track and Field program by raising funds to purchase equipment, and then by raising funds for Regions Hospital, and build team unity by working towards a unified goal over a 24-hour period. And then spring sports such as track and field, baseball, golf, boys and girls lacrosse, and boys tennis have all started. So that is all.
That's a lot. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from March 28th and April 11th.
So moved.
Thank you. Moved by Kevin, second by Stacy. Any discussion on the minutes? I'd like to thank Laura again for all her work on minutes. They're very difficult, and I appreciate the time you take to do them so nicely. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Discussion and information items, calendar of events. We have a calendar of events from now until the end of the school year. This time of year makes it so quick when the calendar goes from a month to now to the end of the school year.
Yeah.
Are there any events that people would like to call out on the calendar from now until June 27th?
May 15th is the scholarship night at the high school.
Mike?
Rite of Spring is this Saturday from 10 to 1, and it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be at the middle school this year. It's the first time we're going to a new place, and as you all may know, that they do Washington County comes out for on-site recycling, bring your TVs, electronics, whatever. Old prescription drugs get picked up, and, the sheriff takes them. They're donating musical instruments to support the high school music department, and collecting bikes to bring for the recycleries so they could fix up bikes and give them to children that would like to have one. We're giving away some trees and plenty of make and takes, and I'm sure there's other things going on, but I'm looking forward to it. And the recycling is going to be basically, that's going to go from 8 to 2, I believe. So that starts before and goes after the Rite of Spring. So if you can come out, do it. I'll be there.
Any other events?
Just an event, Memorial Day on the 27th of May. there's a change of plans. You've probably all seen the construction going on down at Triangle Park, historically where they have this, so they are moving it, and they are going to, and I don't know exact times, but they're going to, the parade will go from St. Jude's to the district center here. So if you're lining up at Triangle Park, you'll miss it.
Any other events?
What's that route going to be? On the main road?
Mhm.
Yeah. Cool.
And second reading of additional policies with MSBA recommended changes.
For these policies, I think the only one we still had some, we discussed them at the study session, and the only policy I think we had some questions on was policy 524, was what we had left. There were questions about, sorry, let me scroll down. First of all, there were some questions under respect for privacy rights, and it had to do with the personal electronic devices. And we did ask MSBA, and they did recommend that we keep our policy the way it is. There are a lot of variables involved in the recording portion of this, so the conversation was about one person recording and whether or not that was legal.
Yep.
Does that ring a bell?
Yep, it does.
And there's just so many exceptions and different parts to that they recommended the way that we have it, that it may be inappropriate is a good way to keep our policy. So that's what we will recommend to keep that. And then the only other changes really in here, we didn't have much about the administrator designee, and I think the annually, we explained the reason why we wanted to change it to annually to be able, because that's for our E-rate, we need to do that annually. I'm looking to Patrick in the back to correct me if I'm wrong. And so I think that was our one outstanding one that we had on that, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Was there anything else in that policy? Okay, other than that, there was the small change around the policy that had to do with, had pagers still listed in it. Which policy was that one? So and so we got rid of pagers and put in 506, thank you. So that was policy 506.
I think that's the next group.
Oh, and that's in the next group, sorry.
Yep. That's right.
And the approval one. Okay, so I'm jumping ahead, so I'll mention that in a little bit.
Okay.
And with a little less awkwardly, because I'll know what I'm talking about. I'll be ready to go for the next
All right.
one. Yep, thank
So
you.
for this group of policies, it's the second reading. Opportunity to ask any other follow-up questions before we have a third reading and action at the next board meeting in June, because we won't act on these at a study session.
Right.
So are there any other questions in taking another review of these policies that we need to think about? Julie, do you have
I just
something?
asked one question to clarify. The policies that we are continually referring to from MSBA are set out as model policies to start our discussion, not to be the end of the discussion, correct?
True.
Okay, I just want that to be clear, because I'm not always sure that we, that should necessarily be where we settle, is where we start on some of those model policies.
True. Yes, and I will also say, I think this was a point that Kevin made at the last meeting also, is that we know with the MSBA policies that they've been looked at and they've been vetted by council. So, I mean, like, to have that background is nice to know that when we look at our MSBA policies, we know that those are ones that align with statute and have been looked at. So, but it doesn't mean that's where we need to land. It's just that we can count on them. Mhm.
Kevin, do you have a comment too?
Can't remember if it was last year or the year before last, we had the policy 509, and we had modified that a fair amount to reflect some of our unique circumstances of being a desirable district. And when we talked about it, and I called Gary Lee from MSBA, he just said, you need to get rid of those because legally they were inaccurate. So, maybe the piece that we look at is if we modify it drastically that we get it reviewed by legal, just to make sure that it's holding up. And we don't seem to modify them that much. I mean, removing pager, I mean, yeah, so just a thought.
I just wanted to clarify.
So, on to the next group. Oh, we're going to wait on the next group of policies. Next, we have the 2018-19 quarterly budget update. Mr. Manazzi. And you brought us a spreadsheet.
Everybody's favorite quarterly spreadsheet.
Thank you.
This is not one we want to skip over because I know everybody loves this spreadsheet on a quarterly basis. So, thank you. Good evening. In your board packet and up on the screen.
Anyone actually see that from out there?
Mostly.
We're just going to stay where we are then? Okay.
Do you have one, Tony? You do?
Yes, those some opera glasses next time.
Okay. I'm sure I could find you one. Bill has all kinds of spreadsheets to share.
You will find our quarterly review. So the end of March was the end of the third quarter already in the 2018-19 school year, and as such, we will review on a quarterly basis our current year actual expenditures as of the end of three quarters compared to budget, compared to the prior year end of three quarters compared to budget, and the second prior year end of three quarters compared to budget. And then to add on top of that, we will look at the prior year audited expenditures and compare that to the prior year budget. So just from an orientation standpoint on your spreadsheet, reading from left to right, you'll see the 19-20 budget, and that's really there for just analysis if you'd like to look forward into next year. But primarily tonight we'll be looking at the middle three columns, which would be the 18-19 budget, and in this case it's the revised budget that the school board approved back in December, compared to expenditures as of the end of March, prior year, same time period, and then second prior year, same time period. So that's really a lot of numbers on this spreadsheet. I certainly won't go through each one, but that's sort of your orientation as we get started here. And the first two pages are the general fund. In this case, we're looking at the general fund expenditures by program. So starting with administration, moving to district support services, regular instruction, and we'll go on down the line. And then the third page, I do have pull out for food service fund and also the community education fund. And so we'll get to that as well. I'd like to start on the second page, if I could, at the bottom of the general fund. What you would hope to see is that our current year would be at or below, from a percentage standpoint, the expenditures compared to the prior year and the second prior year, and that's indeed the case. You can see at the bottom our total general fund budget as of the end of March 2019. We have spent 61.2% of our general fund budget compared to last year as of March 31st, 2018. We had spent 64% of our budget. And then the second prior year, we had spent 66.8%. So really the purpose here, and we get a better picture as of the end of three quarters, is to bring this forward to the board and go over any large variances and then review kind of where we're at as of the end of three quarters. So we are cautiously optimistic on the expenditure side because our expenditures year to date this year are slightly below where they were prior year and second prior year. And just one other overall comment, you can see last year our total expenditures in the far right corner, we had spent 39.9%, 39.9 million as of the end of the 2017-18 fiscal year, which is about 105%. Or 100.5, wow, 100.5% of the $39.7 million general fund budget. So I'll say that again. We had spent 100.5% of our budget last year. So to note that, and then in the second prior year, in 2016-17, we had spent about 100.4%. Okay, so we are tracking slightly behind where we were prior year and second prior year. And that's good, especially considering that in the prior year and second prior year, we actually spent slightly over what our budget was. So I'll go back to the first page now. And like I said, I won't review each one of the program areas. I'd be happy to take questions, but I do want to review some larger variances that you may have some questions on. Starting first under the district support services heading, which is the second heading down. you'll see that under the district support services, on the first page, under purchase services, we have spent $444,000, which is over budget. So those are things like ties fees, so the dissolution related to the ties fees, and then we've also had one payment related to Skyward, which will be our new finance and HR software system starting in 2019-20. So that's the reason for the variance there in the current year. Looking under regular instruction, so as you would hope, the bulk of our expenditures are in regular instruction and then special education instruction. So a common question that I get under the regular instruction heading, as you can see, salaries and wages, we've spent 59.5% of our budget in the current year. And then under employee benefits, under regular instruction, we've spent 61.7%. And so we are done with 3/4 of the year. And so why aren't we 75% spent in those areas, right? So it looks like we're significantly under budget. Important to note that payoffs, so our teachers that work over 9 months, but their paychecks are over 12, the larger payoff will come in June for the July and August checks. And so it's normal and expected and actually consistent from the prior 2 years that we would be behind the 75% after the 3/4. So that's just something that comes up. I thought there may be a question. There may be a question there. And then flipping to the second page again, under pupil support services, so the bulk of our expenditures in the pupil support services area, you can see is under the purchase services, that's our transportation contract. So that's our regular ed, our special ed transportation contract. And you can see that we have spent 54% this year under purchase services compared to 67%. That's related to timing. I don't have a ton of good news there. As of the end of March 2018, we had our March invoice in there. As of the end of March 2019, we had not received our March invoice from Minnesota Central. So it's related to timing. We're not really spending less on transportation this year than we did last year. And then finally, under sites and buildings, you'll notice that our capital expenditures budget, that we have quite a bit remaining there. We have actually $1.23 million budgeted, and we have spent just under $700,000, $698,000 under the capital expenditures heading. We will ramp that up this spring as we make our first payment for that EFIS project, which is that external finishing, the siding system at the middle school and high school, which they're hoping to get started actually tomorrow. And so just wanted to call that out because that is slightly behind the prior year related to that budget. Before I move on to the food service and the community service fund, I want to pause and if there's any questions at all in the general fund. Nope. Nope. Barb always tells me I need to pause for a regular amount of time.
Great wait time, that's true.
Move on to the third page here.
Can I ask a question first? Please, yeah. The pause wasn't quite long enough for me. I'm looking at special ed instruction, and we're actually doing quite well. And this is unusual, isn't it? Usually special ed we're over budget because of not being able to predict those numbers and things. Do you project this continuing this year? Is this a function of good special ed director?
Yes, is the right answer to that question.
Exactly.
And it's also a function of that revised budget that the board approved in December.
Okay.
So you'll notice, and it was wise that the board accepted the approval of that in December. You'll notice our revised budget for 18-19 is up at the 7.5 million figure, which is an increase of the 6.9 million figure from last year. And so, although we are not, we spent 4.2 million last year to date compared to 4.3 million this year to date. We increased the budget so that the percentage actually is down this year.
Wise advice from our...
Well, the budget is better. It's a long way of saying the budget is better in the special ed area.
Thank you.
And then really, on the third page, nothing of significant note to call out, which is good. The food service budget is really tracking with the prior year. A lot of this relates to timing. So the bulk of our food service budget, obviously, as you know, we contract with the Stillwater School District for our food service staffing and management. And you can see that under the purchase services area there, any variances really are related to timing on our payments. And then under community service, it is our expenditures are expected and reasonable with the prior year, with one exception. Under the capital expenditures, that is over where we were last year at this time. That was a planned expenditure for some of the playground equipment that Kathy bought last fall, actually at the District Education Center at the indoor gym. So that's the reason for the increase there. So two highlights for the other funds. Just as an overall summary, as I mentioned before, cautiously optimistic because our expenditures year-to-date this year are at or below where they were the prior 2 years, and that's what you can hope to expect after 3 quarters. And I think that this makes us a reliable base for our assumptions and estimates that we're making for next year, for 1920. So we will continue to track this as the rest of the year goes on, but wanted to present it.
Okay.
Any other questions for Bill? I have a question. Mike, go ahead.
Completely, this is foreign to me, but, so, for instance, like, just so I can understand the spreadsheet a little bit better, so the salary, just on the first page here, the salaries and wages, right, you've got the budget, and as of, and then what is this 6/30/18 audited? Is that what we want to, how it ended up to line up with the budget for that year? Is that exactly right?
That's exactly right. Yep, so the top line, right? So
Yeah, the very
salaries
top
and
line
wages
is,
for
because you got
administration.
the audited part here, and the other stuff isn't audited.
Yep. So the $1,259,000 last year, that was as of, compared to a budget of $1,263,000. All right, so you can see that last year, under administration wages, we ended about $4,000 under budget. So that's exactly right.
That's good, thank you.
It's a good question.
So you do a great job coming and sharing regularly with us on the budget, and we love the spreadsheets, they're very nice. How are we reaching out into our buildings and out to our community more with maybe not a spreadsheet, but with a little bit more general budget updates across the year?
Do you want to help me with that one? I know
Well-
that we've set some things up even for next week a little bit, too.
Yes, so we do have some, we're calling it our tour, we're going on tour, to go over with each building what it is we did at our study session. So the same group that came to the study session to talk about all the changes for next year are also going out together to the buildings, and we just set those up this week. So we start next week doing those. But to your point, then in the future as well, we have also talked about doing some sort of regular update of the budget, similar to what you get, maybe with fewer spreadsheets, but just to let people know these same sorts of things that we talk about here, so.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
On to action items. Now we're going to talk more policies.
Sure, now this one, the only change is policy 506, the only change before, and that was to get rid of the pagers and include smart technology that we had talked about. But otherwise, I think we're recommending these go forward without any other changes than what we've discussed.
I'll move approval.
Second.
Okay, motion from Judy, second from Julie. Any discussion of any of those policies? Losing track of the policies. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. The new policy, was that in your motion, Judy, to do all of them, including that new policy? I guess we weren't, okay, I thought so too, but I just wanted to clarify after we did that, I'm sorry. All right, personnel changes.
Okay, so the first one is a recommendation to approve employment for licensed personnel who will continue to be on probationary status for the 2018-20 school year, and all the names are listed there below. I don't need a motion for that. The next one also is a recommendation to approve contract status for licensed personnel moving from probationary status to continuing contract status for the 19-20 school year. And we have those teachers or those certified staff members listed in the packet as well. So I don't know if there are questions on, oh, Mike?
So the FTEs in parentheses, does that denote changes, up or down?
Are there changes up or down? No, I don't believe any of them are changes. I believe they are all the same as they were this year.
I think it's lower.
I don't think it is.
Oh, okay.
Mm-mm.
Okay. So along the FTE question, so if someone's moving from probationary to continuing status, is their contract a full, how does that work? But they're only .7?
When they move to continuing contract, they are, right, so she would be at .7 on her, as her continuing contract. Mhm.
Okay. But that doesn't guarantee her a 1.0 going forward?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification.
Mhm.
Any other questions on those two groups? Okay.
Oh, we do need a motion for that. Oh, it's just not listed there. Okay, I'm sorry. So I guess, okay, so.
Motion for each separate.
For one and two, so then we'll go back up to one.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll take a motion then for that recommendation.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Julie, seconded by Judy. Any discussion on the first group moving or continuing on probationary status? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Now we have the group moving from probationary to continuing contract.
Move approval.
Thank you. Motion
Second.
from Kevin, second from Julie. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay. This next one is the approval of resolution to terminate and non-renew probationary teacher contracts. And the resolution is listed in the packet. And so, looking for a motion for that resolution.
Move approval. Have a motion.
Second.
Second, moved by Judy, seconded by Mike. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Okay, and this approval of resolution is proposing to place on unrequested leave of absence. With these two, it's based on student numbers, and so that is why we're proposing the ULA. The teachers have 14 days to request a hearing on that ULA, in which case, and then if there's no request, then in 14 days, we'll bring it back with an approval of approval of resolution to place on unrequested leave of absence. So both of these teachers are being placed on ULA because of student numbers.
Moved by Judy,
Second.
seconded by Kevin. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. All right. Next, we have the approval of the resolution for the school district calendar adjustment for 2018-19 school year.
So we had this conversation at the board, at the study session about the snow cold weather day resolution that was passed at the legislature. And it allows us to take back, I guess, a few of our days, our instructional days, and count them. Though we had off for those 3 days, we can count them in our calendar as instructional days. And we are proposing that we do this for 3 days to get us back up to our 1,020 in particular at the secondary is the place that we fall short. And we already did make up 1 day at the secondary. So it's 3 that we would need in order to get back up to that 1,020 hours. And so with that, the other part is that we need to make sure that we have taken care of our obligations to our contracted employees, which are our bus and food service, and we have. We followed those contracts, and then our other hourly employees that we started working with right away as soon as school started. We had our first snow day, or our second snow day, is we did start offering professional development opportunities for those staff members to make up that time. And so we will continue to do that. We already have, before this passed, we had quite a few staff members who had taken advantage of that and had been working on completing those hours. And so And so with all of that, we are recommending that we add those 3 days back in order to get up to our number of hours, 1,020.
Move approval.
Thank you. Moved by Mike, seconded by Stacy. Any discussion? We did discuss this at our study session, so we've had the discussion, I think, already. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. School Board Committee reports. AMSD.
Okay, I will take that one as soon as I moved some notes to the bottom, I'm afraid. So at the AMSD, the main part of our AMSD meeting was to hear from Representative Jim Davney about the work at the Capitol and our budget. So I don't know that I have anything more to say other than it's something to read, and it is not consistent between the Senate and the House, as we all know. So that's my big summary. We also heard from Bloomington Public Schools. They shared with us their screeners that they use, their literacy screeners, that they have created themselves, and so they were sharing that with us. And then also from Minneapolis Public Schools, they were alerting us to some issues that they've come into with third-party billing. So really, it was a sharing from school districts to help with a number of things that we may not have known about with in particular, the third-party billing is the case. But Bloomington also was sharing what they had created in-house for their literacy screeners. So that's AMSD.
Thank you. May.
So we just had our meeting on Monday night, and their mission moment was the Real World Design Challenge team, which was very fun to watch them give an explanation of the project they had this year. They had just been to the Nationals in Chevy Chase, Maryland. It was a great group of kids. Let's see. At the gala, at the Legacy Night Gala, they raised about $200,000 and about $57,000 for Fund a Need, right? For the mental health. The gala date for next year is April 4th. So put that on your calendar. May 15th is Scholarship Night. Those are kind of the only things that they really talked about. Oh, we also have spots available for the Friday, October 4th signature party event like they had last year. Louis Groove will be playing at the Old Tartan Park, and you can sign up for that online. So.
All right. School Board Association, they're very busy right now with a lot of phase trainings. You've seen those come through, I think, based on the award we had in January. We've been through the phase training, most of us, so I think we're good there. They're also very busy at the Capitol with everything that's going on. And other than that, there's not much new to report from MSBA. 9:16.
All right, a few things to report, although Connie swept in and did the heavy lift here today. But we heard at our last school board meeting about the Grow Your Own non-conventional licensure program that they've had for the last 3 years. And the idea is to try to get the people in place that they need to run the services. And we heard it today, as special ed is a challenge to get qualified people in. So the idea is to provide a graduate level pathway to insurance, licensure, and EBD for current educational assistants with a focus on serving students at level 3 and level 4 classrooms, which level 4, as they might have done the level 4 one, boy, that's the people that are doing that work are amazing, absolutely amazing. But one of the ideas that they would like to do is all districts are facing increasing the number of teachers of color in the district. And at 33% of our students in Minnesota being students of color and 4.2% of teachers being teachers of color, we have a gap there. They're saying that this is very cost-effective to do this model. The University of Minnesota has kind of designed the program, and for a total of, and this is, I'm looking at Lucy here, a total of 36 credits to complete this program. And it looks like St. Thomas has gone into this as well with 916. Does that sound familiar, or are they about to?
They're in discussions, 916, 917, and, no, it's not 287, what's the other 200 number district?
That was 287.
St. Thomas already paired with 287, so maybe it's an extension of that, but it's 916 and 917.
So they've had 40 graduates since the program started in 2016. 18% self-identified as people of color, so they've certainly done some good on that front. 916 currently employs 12 graduates of the program. Let's see here. As we do, they contract out for their food services too. And Stillwater, they must have a really good deal because they're using Stillwater for this one that we just approved. And the real fun thing that happened yesterday, and you won't be able to see this, but it's a panel of students, 4 students, who 3 of the 4 are from 916. And so there's a young man who is going into first responders. There is a woman that is going into nursing, and there's a guy that is going into diesel mechanics. And just absolutely fascinating and just passionate about that program that they're engaged in. And then Senator Tina Smith sat in between them all. So it was a testament to 916, and when I first got up, we all had to introduce ourselves. I said, well, I'm on a Meade School Board. And then after I heard these 4 or 3 introduced and started talking, I really want to rechange that. I really want to change that to also 916 School Board too. They were really good. And what else do I have on the report? I know I have something else here. There is a 916 golf tournament. It's the 32nd annual golf tournament, Tuesday, June 11th at Indian Hills Golf Club. Save the date. It's a good cause for their foundation, and you can find that on their website. So
They're looking for golfers even if you can't golf.
that would be me. That's it.
I want to say that my grandson is graduating from that program. On May 8th. He has his degree in biology from St. Olaf, not a lot of jobs. Took a job as an EA at 916, and was passionate about it, and so he went into the program, and so he will graduate with his master's degree in special ed on May 8th.
That's great.
Yep. Of course, he lives with us because now he's not getting paid.
There's
The
that.
EA job stopped, and he had to get a stipend for the program, so Zach and his dog live with us.
Okay, other board committee reports.
I will jump in and talk about the Metro Exu annual meeting that just happened. So the annual meeting, the purpose of it is to show all the delegate assembly what Metro Exu has to offer each district. And so Metro Exu, this is a service co-op, and so it allows us to come together, not unlike 916 in a lot of ways, to be able to serve, they exist to serve districts so that we can do things like cooperative purchasing, or they have some programs, Success Beyond the Classroom, so the Young Authors Conference, or the Creativity Festival, things of that nature that we wouldn't be able to do ourselves, but it brings a number of districts together. They also offer some of the low incidence special education programs, and they have some grants in that regard. So it was an opportunity for them to highlight a number of their programs that we take advantage of. Cooperative purchasing is another, and so that just happened. I just thought I do have a disk drive, or a jump drive of all the things that they shared that evening, if anyone is interested in learning more. So.
Anything else? Superintendent's report. Oh, Kevin, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I actually will have to have the superintendent help me on this report, actually. I sat in on the curriculum review committee, yeah. And so that I thought was quite interesting. So the first topic that was discussed was the gifted and talented program. And Jen Israel was there and kind of went through that. Still, I think she had some of the data, but she went through it pretty fast, and so it would be my hope that maybe at some point we could get a fuller understanding of the COGAT testing results for first through fifth grade, if that is reasonable. So that, and then we learned of two of our math teachers went to the National Math Conference. Huh? Was it three? Three, okay. Well, we heard from, did we hear from two then, maybe? Anyway, that was pretty impressive for a non-math guy. That was really pretty cool. And again, it's a testament to, I think, what we are doing in our schools in the elementary grades in mathematics. I think it's pretty darn cool. Then we had to do a review of the course descriptors.
We had an opportunity to do a review.
Opportunity. Yeah. We had to do it.
Oh, is that what it was?
And so that was interesting as well. I feel like that was a nice taste sampling of the work that needs to be done on that. Was there anything else, Barb, that was probably about it, so, okay.
Okay, all right, anyone else? Okay, so I attended I heard about, you mentioned the PTO fun fair. That was my first fun fair, and it was something. It is something. There's a lot of energy, a lot of basket. Oh, you wanted a basket?
First time ever.
Congratulations.
What was it?
STEM basket.
Oh, that's perfect.
Exciting
for
in
you.
our household.
Yeah, I bet it is, yeah. So I know they raised over $10,000 that event, and I'm not surprised at all. There was a lot of very fun energy. So yes, lots of energy. So that was a great event. In our consent agenda tonight, you did approve the contract of Justin Hahn, which is very exciting. And we'll send something out to our community as well to let them know about Justin. But he'll be joining us as the new associate principal at Matamidi High School. And we're very excited to have him. He is currently a middle school principal in Hastings and previously had been a high school social studies teacher for over 15 years. So he came with great recommendations with his relationships with students, his ability to just really listen and dig in and get to know people, and we're just really thrilled that he's going to be joining us. So we hope to introduce you to him as well sometime. So last night I attended that was just last night, the Celebration of Excellence. It's been busy. So, and that was my first, of course, everything's my first, I suppose, right? My first celebration. A little bit longer. Yeah, I'm still new. So my first Celebration of Excellence, which was an amazing evening, and it was nice to see. I got to sit with people who have been sponsoring it. I was at the table with the people who had been sponsoring it since its inception. So, and there they were, and they come every year, and they're very proud. The Hendricksons, I believe, who sat next to me, who own a business in town, don't have any kids in our district, and they were just thrilled to just be there and be part of everything. Yeah, they were very impressed, and then was also working on me about some other opportunities for students as I was sitting there. So I was excited to sit with them and get to know them as well. So but just an amazing evening for our students, and I love the part of this where they also acknowledged the teachers who supported them and helped them along the way, and so it was fun and it was moving. And then this morning, I attended the Futures in Bloom event from Century College Foundation, also very moving, and I was just so impressed with both the students who spoke, the alumni who spoke, and then just that community support, people love their Century College. I mean, like, the community was just out in full force, and there were so many people there, and it was just, it was wonderful, all the support for Century, and for good reason, so. Tonight, I ran by, but I wasn't able to stay at the White Bear Center for the Arts. They have the reception this evening for the award winners for the high school visual arts. And on May 2nd, we have the writing awards as well. So that's coming up. So, but this one I wasn't able to be there because I'm here. But I encourage you to go and see all the work that is displayed. It goes on through the 15th. So, and then I will also put in a plug for the play this weekend. I am very excited. So.
Are you part of it the first time?
I am a very small part. Very small. That's what I was told. At least it was advertised to me as a very small
I haven't seen it, so.
role. Yeah, when I
You
was.
don't have to spell very much.
They call it cameo, right?
Well, that's how I understood it.
Yeah. There are 4 guests every night on stage, and so Barb has volunteered. Is that a fair word?
Volunteer. I'm happy to do it, yes.
And they go up on stage, and they're part of the spelling bee. And so Barb and Justin McDonough and Joyce, Matt Huss will be on stage at one point this weekend. We've got a bunch of students on stage. It'll be a lot of fun, so.
Yeah, it will be.
I have not seen it, but it's.
I will say there's one other thing I forgot to mention. I didn't know if you were going to close on me. So I got to go and test pasta today in the FACS class in the middle school. And we actually had 2 dishes that made the judges say, I could eat this all night. So, yeah, so that was something, yeah. Okay, now I'm ready. All right. Sorry. Now I'm done with
I've got one more thing.
Okay.
So, Barb would not say this, but I will, because Barbara's modest. She had a wonderfully great Movers and Shakers article in the White Bear Press talking about our mental wellness initiative, and it was just really well done.
This week?
This past Wednesday, yep.
Well, and truly, that was a collaborative effort, you know. So this team that's sitting out here off camera has been working for a long time on that initiative and talking about how we're going to talk about this and how we're going to support our kids and what it should look like. So that was really a reflection of the whole team effort that's been working on this for a long time since I don't know, this winter sometime, I think. So, yeah, well, thanks. Mhm.
All right. That's all all we have on the agenda tonight. Can I have a motion to adjourn, please? Thank you. A second. All right, we're adjourned.
This, and we look forward to seeing.